The Human Playbook. Today, PJ, I would like to talk about an important topic for myself in my personal life, and it's about the ego. I wish to understand the ego better because it controls a lot of my life and I believe of other people's life. And I wish to know more about the ego and how we can liberate our creativity. And I chose for today's episode the quote from Mihaly. Mihaly wrote the book about flow states and he wrote a book about creativity. And his quote is this: a person concerned with protecting his or herself, practically all the attention is invested in monitoring threats to the ego, leaving no attention for creativity. Now, he says there's no attention left for creativity and the creative life when we are always concerned with our ego. And my first question to you would be, what even is a creative life? How does a creative life look like, or how would you personally define a creative life or a creative person?
Well, this is such an interesting thing to talk about because I I think maybe one of the things that I've been set out to do, if there is some sort of path that is laid out for us before we get here or when we get here, it's I have the specific challenge of having to be creative in a very ego trap world. Like, social media of all places is built to farm your ego's wants and get you to do things. And then how do you be creative at the same time? That's my karma. That's my challenge. What does it mean to be creative? Well, what does it mean to not be creative? Are there people out there that are legitimately not creative and not living creative lives? Maybe. That could mean they're just completely closed off and going about it. That sounds really miserable. I don't even know what a non-creative life is. What is a creative life? You don't know what's going to happen. I see this thing sometimes where it's like if you know what's going to happen, you're on somebody else's path. And
From Joseph Campbell.
oh, is that what that's from?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, great guy.
Of course, Campbell said
it.
that. You don't know what's going to happen when you're on a creative path, when you're living a creative life, and then you get the upsides and downsides of that, of the total excitement every day of, oh, I just made a new thing, or I thought a new thing, and also the downsides of I just don't know. I don't have the ego security of, if I do this for 4 years and do this degree and do this at the job, then I will get this amount of money and this will be able to happen in my life and I'll get married. None of those things are bad. And people who have those things and do those things and pursue those things, I'm sure have lovely lives and we could all benefit from them. But the impulse to escape uncertainty, I think, is what makes it so you don't have a creative life. And a lot of what being an artist is being able to survive that unknown.
I love that. And I think, if you would define, it opens my mind a bit because it brings a different perspective on it. I had my own thoughts about what it is, but it's such an interesting point of view that you share here with that a creative life or a not creative life could be a life which is in some sense maybe more predictable, more on the side of certainty, of planning and knowing and control, knowing exactly where it leads. And maybe the artist is playing with this unknown realm. Maybe he even enjoys to not know, because not knowing also means there's a lot of possibility there's a huge space of possibility that can be explored. So that's an interesting point of view, actually. But we would already get, like, I don't want to jump to the next thing, to the next question already, but just a quick point on that, because for me it seems important, is like to play with this unknown realm with possibilities. There's a lot of fear involved. Probably that's what keeps us wanting to live a predictable lifestyle with marriage, with when kids, with job, with money, with all those things. There's a lot of fear involved in that kind of living as well. But I think this is where the ego later comes in. Um, but yeah, how could we dive deeper into creative life? I heard last time from the book, the one you told me about, greatness cannot be planned,
Mm-hmm.
to live like treasure hunters. And it reminds me a bit of that kind of living. You never really know where you kind of go, and you follow a path that seems interesting and curious for you. And that's how you become a treasure hunter in your own life.
Thank you for bringing that up, because sometimes I think about like making my work and making my posters, and I don't spend that much time on them, and it's not as if it's like the funnest thing in the world to do, and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I totally just being like a lazy freak who's doing this like routine and not really investing in the stuff I'm making, when really what I get all the joy out of is the treasure hunt. My day is spent trying to catch ideas. That's what and then putting them out into the world is just a secondary thing. The actual medium and execution is secondary. So the treasure hunting is what keeps me going. It's like crack, and that's what
Mm,
I could never give up. That's what I want to
yeah.
do, is treasure hunt.
Okay. But you say that the poster, to make it,
Mm-hmm.
to do that work itself, did it become a bit boring? You don't like it as much anymore,
No,
would you
it's not
say?
that I don't like it as much. It's that there are painters who get lost in the process of painting. There are sculptors who get lost in the process of sculpting. Like they enter a flow state in the execution, um, and just by the nature of like what I'm making, there's like a formula. I get lost in the flow state when I'm creating the formula, and the formula doesn't change that much, but that's what's very exciting. And then there's just millions of different words that I could put in that formula and what comes out, and it's gratifying to see them. But the whole point is I'm trying to be able to make as much work as possible, so I'm like putting barriers and edges on what can occur so that I can just make more things. Where I enter the flow state is when first I try to rev myself up and try to get myself to a place where I can hear ideas, and then they just start coming rapidly. Sometimes I have days where it's just one or two deliveries throughout the day, like, oh, I just got lucky, let's write that down. But the real flow state, the real exciting thing, is when I'm able to be a recorder of what's going on up here.
Hmm, I see. But in this kind of process, when you do the posters and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
where would you say are you in that state of which you defined as maybe the unknown, the unpredictable, like in all that creative process of poster journal, where do you see is the where is that part the most present of playing with that
Mm-hmm.
uncertainty, with that unknown? Is it in finding these ideas, being in that space, waiting for it? How do you get in that zone, in that place?
Well,
Like,
there's
you know?
steps to the process, but the most honest and playful part is when I'm in my notes app, ready to write some or writing something down, and literally laying out the poster, like pressing the space bar and moving things around rapid as I get the idea. I don't write it down and then try to make a poster. I design the poster in the notes app right away, and that's what's like delivered to me. Um, it's also fun to actually pick out the colors and curate what am I going to post today, because there's tens of thousands of posters sitting in my notes, and I also like to work from things that are fresh, but sometimes there are things that didn't make it, and I put those in and mix them in, that's also very fun and challenging to pick out what are we going to do today. But the real creativity and artwork is happening in the first step, the recording of the idea.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The first draft,
Interesting.
not the last
Yeah.
draft. The thing that goes out is like the last draft. It's like step number 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And do you actively refuse in your own life to not make plans about family, job, living, all that kind of stuff? You talked about the creative life might be a life that is less predictable, less um, do you actively try to not make a vision about your life, where exactly it goes, in order to stay creative?
Well, that's such a good question because, you have to visualize things and you have to get very specific about what you want, and the universe responds to specificity. And so I'm like, what do I do about this? Because when I like say if I wanted to visualize my dream house, there's 200 versions, you know, or visualize a dream relationship or dream family or whatever. I could be happy in thousands of variations. So it's trying to collapse it into one. I'm like, oh, but there's so much I could try, and there's so much that I could enjoy. But do I avoid making plans? We sort of talked about how what's more interesting is the path itself, not the if people are like, I want to go to the top of that mountain. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I want to find a path that doesn't end, and the path just keeps getting more interesting and better. I'm a path selector, and I think you are too, because if I get to the top of the mountain and I'm done, then I'm done, you know. And there's just no
Yeah.
such thing in life where you're done,
Mm-hmm.
or those are
Yeah.
made up. Those are arbitrary. It's a piece of
Yeah,
paper.
yeah, 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 and I think it's kind of a debt that you pay with, a spiritual death almost. If you are done, and if you choose to be done, I think it's a terrible place to be in. Um, but I think if you look at nature and stuff, it's everywhere. Kind of this pattern, of if you look how humans um are made and stuff, like you have all these possibilities, all these genetic um DNAs and stuff, and they are mixed together, and something new evolves, and then there's you and me on a podcast. You have a different perspective on life than me, but kind of we are mixing it together, and something unique is being created out of it. And um, I think to see with those eyes of a kid again, who sees there's a world with all of those variety and possibility, and I can mix and experiment with it and see where it goes. um, I think that's really an interesting life. But where I always struggle is, let's say, in the small things, like in a business or podcast or maybe post or journal. It is easy to kind of play and experiment in that container. You can play with ideas. You can fail at some point as well. But when it comes to my own life, in a broader perspective, um, I hold a lot of fear. Like, sometimes my fear is, what if I'm going crazy? What if everybody around me is getting married and having the nice car and the good paying job and stuff, but me, I am this crazy loser who's playing and trying and stuff. Like, do you ever have this fear? And I think that's where we're gonna touch soon on the ego, because that's what I want to understand more. But do you ever have a fear of going crazy if you just allow yourself to be creatively?
Yes. There's so much it feels like there's to lose. And what uh, Rick Rubin talks about the sophomore album, and a lot of artists come out with their first thing, and they create fame and success for themselves. And but the person that created that fame and success was somebody who had no fame and success, and they were just playing and having fun and making something where only feedback from themselves was taken into account because they didn't have access to an audience. Then you get access to an audience and you want to keep it. And there is all of this influence from them. And so your whole value system will very quickly change. And now it becomes very serious and you lose that ability to have a childlike imagination, which is completely unserious. Kids are completely unserious when they're imagining their life and their future or make believe. And then your question about like going crazy, I mean, I dealt with that for probably all of 2022. So I started doing this in summer of 2020 and had no attention until maybe 2021. And then I desperately tried to like control it. And that's also when I graduated college and just so much was going on. And it was a horrible thing, a horrible experience to think I was so behind, so confused. Everything I was doing was wrong.
Hmm. I see. And well, maybe you are mentally behind.
Perhaps that would explain a lot.
Maybe I am too. maybe maybe we're too mentally behind
Yeah,
kids
and
here,
we're just
trying to
we're just recording it now. We're just publishing it for some reason.
suck, man. Um, but you see, I think that's where I'm trying to get at actually with this is like, what if it would be true that we are crazy? We are in some way weird and different than others, which I anyway believe we are, but um, what part of us is really touched by that thought? What part of us is really um, getting hurt by this thought? Like, is it really us? Is it the true nature of us? Like, with all those threats, as Mihaly says, or which part in us has really a problem with being weird, with being different? I don't know, all of the stuff, as you say, like, you know,
It's the ego. Excellent. It's not actually
the
me.
ego. Yeah,
It's not actually me.
yeah. All right, and then we can dive into that deeper. The ego. We hear that word so much more, or so much. But can we define it? Can we, it might be hard right now in one sentence, but what is the ego for you? How do you see the ego?
I want to look it up. I want to know the definition because this is what I'm so confused about. When I started reading Ram Dass in the summer of 2022 when I was going crazy, and he that was kind of my first introduction to the idea that there's not even you, because you is still ego, but like there's your awareness, and that is like the eternal consciousness that was here before you came into the body and will be here after you're done. But then there's this like ego machine. It's almost like an organ, he described it, as part of the body. And it needs to be there to keep you alive. And it can be useful, and it doesn't need to be demonized or hated. And I think you posted a meme of somebody like, I completely rid myself of my ego and I'm better than you now, or something like that. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of that. There's a lot of, people like us, like white guys in their 20s talking about ego. It's like such a stereotype. But I think it's this machine, this mental machine, this very small mental machine that's doing everything to avoid risk and get resources and control external things, which is kind of impossible to do. And
Yeah.
it's really unrelated to risk taking and playing and joy and silliness.
Hmm.
That's what do you think it is? What is the ego?
Yeah. I mean, you already gave an amazing explanation. So, first of all the things that we kind of look for, the creativity and joy and stuff. So this is blocked by this stuff, ego, that we call ego and stuff. And I think that's now interesting that we can be here and explore together a bit what exactly, are the different layers. So let's take the first layer. I think Eckhart Tolle says the ego survives in the past and in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't survive in the now. So let's take that point first. Later we can go into different layers. But first of all, the past and the future. An interesting kind of topic, because how many actions that we take are taken in the now in order to get somewhere in the future, and how many of our actions um, are taken right now just because they serve its own purpose in the now, because we might love them so much, so they are not attached to somewhere down the road. um, and I think that's where the creative life again happens. It's in the now, it's in those actions which maybe have no attachment to the future. They are made for its own sake in this very moment. You're fully involved. You're not rushing to the finish line. I think the ego is rushing to the finish line all the time. Oh, I'm gonna have more money in the future. Oh, if I just do that and cut my hair, and if I shave my mustache, I'm gonna have my wife somewhere in the future. And if I have a wife or a boyfriend or whatever, I'm gonna be happy down there. And now I do all of those things in order to achieve it, but we are always kind of behind, probably. That might be a struggle of the ego, this rushing to future.
When I first read The Power of Now in 2020, I didn't understand it, and I couldn't appreciate that time might be an illusion, because I'm like, well, all that stuff happened, and things are going to happen. What do you mean time is an illusion? And then the second time I read it, I started to appreciate more that, oh, every time I'm experiencing the so-called past, I'm not actually experiencing a past, I'm experiencing a memory or imagination right now. And every time I'm experiencing the future or thinking about the future, I'm experiencing an imagination of it right now. And so that was sort of the second level of awareness of, oh, it really is all right now. Things did happen, but they all happened right now. And this is just a different now. And there's not a line that I'm moving along. It's just I am stationary, and the whole thing is kind of in flux constantly. So the ego really only survives if you're imagining and not really here with what you're doing. And imagination is sort of a cope sometimes for when the actual present is really boring or painful. Imagination is perfect and wonderful, but maybe the ego steps in to entertain itself or you when the now is actually not sufficiently engaging. Either that's your fault or or the outside world's. You can take responsibility perhaps and say, if I am so bored by this either safe or low risk or low energy thing that's going on right now, of course my ego is going to step in to fill that void. There's not enough mental activity. But also you could say, no, it's because you're not actually paying attention. It's all extremely interesting. Even there is no such thing as boring. This is all infinite beauty that if you were really here, if you were really tapped in, as some of the great masters might be, it's probably so transcendently beautiful that you could cry just staring at the wall. So the ego perhaps blocks all of that, maybe.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing, especially just with the imagination. I never saw it like that, but it makes totally sense. But I think maybe there are also two different kind of imaginations. I believe one imagination helps you to, it creates kind of a hope, like this life right now is so boring and hard, but I do it because I have this positive expectation that what I do right now it's gonna pay off and make my life better down the road. This kind of imagination, whether it's good or bad, I don't know. But maybe then there is another imagination which is more like a childlike, but maybe this childlike imagination is more in the moment, using and molding and playing with things in your surroundings, and then creating something more in the moment. Um, let's say you, I don't know, you do sports, or you want to take on a role, or you as a kid you believed you're Superman or something. It was kind of used imagination in the now to make this moment better. But maybe the other imagination is not imagination, but maybe it's hope, and maybe it's an illusion that life gets better somewhere in the future. I don't know. Maybe that's an interesting way. Is life actually getting better down the road, or is this a false promise? Like, is it never ever getting better than what it is right now?
Well, we're supposed to familiarize ourselves with the feeling of the end. We're supposed to go and imagine what does the end feel like, and that supposedly is the frequency that will animate you and your surroundings to bring that imagined future towards you. So hope is a little different. Hope is sort of like they say. What did he say? Something about like a wish is an intention with like no power behind it. Hope is kind of the same thing. It's like an intention with no power behind it. Where playful, excited imagination is actually probably pretty powerful because it's all of the attention is being used, and that's very animating. I don't even want to entertain the idea. There's something in me that and this comes and goes throughout my life, but there's something in me that just is so certain that on the whole, yes, there will be ups and downs, but on the whole, life will get 10 times more amazing and interesting down the line. And I don't think, maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's future projecting, maybe I'm not in the moment. That makes me excited now. That animates me now. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually love that I don't know what's going to happen. I feel so
Mm.
lucky that I don't know. There are people that know
Okay.
exactly what's going to be happening 10 years from now.
Yes. Okay. I think you just solved our puzzle here a
Hmm.
little bit of the time. Because I see it the same way as you. To believe that life gets better and interesting down the road. This is really an exciting thought right now here, and probably the ego kicks in when there comes insistence into the game.
Insistence. Yeah, attachment to the result. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right. I'm insisting that it needs to happen like that, and there's no other opportunity, or no other way of looking at things. It needs to go and happen that way. And if it doesn't, I'm gonna be really dissatisfied and not happy. And probably that's the point. You can use the imagination and visualization of an amazing life, but how good is your ability to actually let go in the moment of where it gets the most exciting? How good can you let go of the vision and come back into the moment and maybe just follow and use that excited energy for what you
And
do?
that's where maybe I'm wrong, maybe the world is wrong, where, like we were talking about specificity and knowing exactly what you want and having a very clear, definite command for the universe and definiteness of purpose. There's so many things that could create the frequency and feeling within me of like, this is fucking amazing. This is so cool. I love this. This is the best. There's not one thing, there's thousands of things. And collapsing that into a known sounds so boring. I don't want to do that. I want to stay open, just like in that Why Greatness Cannot Be Planned. There's so many different unknown spaces in this box that I could go touch. And if there was just one path, I don't think I'd want to do it. If I knew what was going to happen, I don't think I'd want to do it.
Yeah, same. Same. Definitely, I don't want to. And there might be coming the next thing again into the game from the ego, the next layer. Why do you think is the ego want? Why does he want to control it so much?
Well, here, what's going on with me now, or my belief right now, and it'll change, is the ego is probably when we put on the VR headset, when our soul says, "Okay, I'm going to go into life," and this is very Dolores Cannon. We put on the little VR headset back in 4D, 5D, or whatever, and the ego is like the little coach in the headset, the VR goggles that's saying, "Don't touch the hot lava and don't go into the shark infested water and find food." It's little indicators. It's just doing things to help you play the silly game. And it's also saying, "Don't die, don't die." It's very serious. Don't die, don't die. When, of course, death is just you going back to where you were, and you go, "Oh, that was all just for fun, and I've done this tens of thousands of times." So the ego is part of the video game. It's just a little part of the video game. And then the video game controllers are frequency and thought. That's how you move around.
Yeah, I love that. I especially want to touch on death. I mean, there's our physical death and the ego death. And I really love to look at my life after meditating for 5-10 minutes on my own death, like envisioning it, imagining it, how I'm gonna die, what I would do if I have only this and this amount left. Because I think in the face of death, there's something inside you that cares about how you look, about the opinions, about time, all these things. I think in the face of death, that's kind of irrelevant. And I think then that's where we maybe see a clear picture of how the divine nature of our life would look like, if we would embrace it. Do you envision sometimes your own death? Would you do something, or maybe let me ask you this question. If I'm your doctor right now and you come to me and I say, "PJ, you are gonna die in 2 weeks because you're so ugly."
Perfect.
No, that's not what a doctor would say. I'm sorry. I couldn't come up with anything. You have a disease, whatever.
2 weeks.
You're gonna die. 2 weeks. Okay, that's a short time. Let's say 3 months. Would there be anything specific you would say you would do different?
Well, I certainly would not want to know when I'm going to die. And this I'm gonna give you a bad answer that will kind of mess with the experiment here. I will simply refuse to believe what the doctor said. I will simply say, "I'm so grateful that I am not going to die in 3 months, that I'm going to continue living. It feels so good to me. I'm so happy and grateful now that I am perfectly healthy, and I'm so relieved that the doctor is wrong." That's what I would do.
Oh my god, you just destroyed my mind game.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Okay.
travel. I wouldn't go spend all my money. I wouldn't do.
You wouldn't?
No, I would say, "Oh, I'm so happy that I'm going to be alive for like many more decades and I can keep doing what I'm doing. I'm so excited."
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so let me make this more challenging for
God.
you. I'm not your doctor. I'm God right now, and I know with certainty you're gonna die in 3 months because I'm the one who's gonna kill you. Actually,
okay, this is easy. I'm gonna say, "Awesome, see you soon." See you soon. I'm just gonna dick around here for a little bit, have fun. I'll see you soon. This will be fun.
All right.
Yeah, if it's coming from God, I'll say, "Oh, can't wait. I'm coming home. This will be so cool."
All right. And what if I would tell you that I'm sending you to hell? Unless you do some really good things in those last 3 months. But
well, I would say hell isn't real. Hell, if hell is real, it's here on Earth. It's our frequency. People are in hell now. They're not going to go to hell. They're experiencing hell now.
All right.
So I'll just say, "Well, no, that's not true." Not true.
You would argue with God. I like it. You're such a stubborn kind of man.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
Yeah, pretty. I'd say, "No, that's not true. That's not true."
All right. No, but now for real, you really, in those 3 months, you would really do the exact same thing as you do now. keep on doing the
I would do them
your
even
work and
better.
things.
I would do them even better.
All right. Oh, maybe that's something good
I
to
would make
take
the
on. Would
best
you?
artwork of my life. I would make the best work of my life, and I would make 10 times more than I've ever made.
How do you know? How do you know that your work would be better? Would you change something in how you're gonna do it?
I would be totally released from wanting to protect myself, from wanting to protect my ego, from wanting to conserve resources and energy, from wanting to get to a
Oh.
certain end. I'd say, let's lay it all out. Let's do it all. Let's put it all out and make
Oh.
the most honest depiction of a human experience the world has ever seen. Because I'm about to
I
go. I'm
love
about
that.
to go. I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't care if I get in
Yeah.
trouble. I don't care if you all hate me. I don't care if you all love me. Like, this is gonna go. So let's publish everything.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because I think in that energy, maybe that's where creativity is at its highest. Maybe that's what death is for. It shows us like, in some sense, it's meaningless. We give it meaning, but we are liberated, as you said. Or do you think to live your life, even though you don't know right now when you're gonna die, do you think it would be bad to live life that freely in that sense? Or why do you
I
think you
do.
can't do it right now?
I do. I think there's actually there's value in the ego. I think the ego helps keep us alive. And I think it's stupid to be reckless. It's stupid to destroy things, rules are dumb, but we live in a society and a civilization, and we interact with other people, and if I do things that they've decided they don't like in this iteration of time that I'm in, it's actually pretty dumb to war against that. Or you can war against that and face the consequences that they've decided. And again, you'll die. So it's kind of doesn't really matter. But I do think being reckless and being totally no ego, no conservation of self is ineffective. I don't think you'll actually be able to continue. If I just go on a hike and I don't bring any water, I'll just die. I'll never
Yeah.
be able to hike again.
Okay, I understand these things, especially when it goes about, survival, like food and shelter and all those things. I understand it there, but I mean in the way
Yeah.
you do your art, in the way you
You're
do
right.
your work. You just sounded so liberated and happy, and hey, I know I'm just gonna go, and I would put all of that out. Like, would that be bad? Like, does the self, the personality, need to be preserved and protected?
Totally. Because we do not live in a 100% free expression, no consequences world. These platforms, the government, there are things like Mark Zuckerberg was just talking about it, how the Biden administration was saying you have to take these things down. He's also kind of a liar about a lot of things, and I don't trust him. And he says he's going to change policies and stuff, and that's very exciting. But I won't even swear in my work anymore because I'm not interested in getting any of their negative attention on me, the platforms or whatever. So I'm very edited. There's so many crazy things I'd like to say, but I don't because I'm saying, well, here's the trade-off. I can either maintain my ability to keep this project going and do most of what I want to say, or I could just destroy it all but be super honest. And I think there's more value in me pulling back a little bit so that I can continue the project.
Uh-huh. So the fear would be that you can't continue the project in this scenario because you think that the platforms will take you down.
Yes, and they have.
Uh-huh. But it wouldn't be the fear about yourself or how you are being perceived or some. This is not on the game. Like,
And that too. What if somebody I know sees something? I mean, it's even scary every day. Like, what if somebody sees that I post something and it's cringe? What if they're like, "That's so stupid. That's cringe and lame." That's really scary. So those fears are certainly there.
and in this sense, you think it's good to protect that part which is scared about opinions and stuff, and maybe edit your expression a bit, or would
No,
it?
it's not good. It's certainly limiting, and like I was talking about with the sophomore album, you don't have a lot of that self consciousness when you first start out because no one's looking, and then when people start looking, you're like, I'm on a stage right now. There are people in the crowd. If I post the post button, press the post button, people will see this. That freezes you up. No, it's not a good thing. It's actually something that I have to overcome daily. And the best artists in the world have overcome it more than others. Maybe there's nobody that's completely overcome it. Maybe the only person that's totally overcome it is Jesus or something. And he said, I'm willing to stand up for what I believe in until you kill me. I don't know. Um,
Mm,
he really was not concerned with
yeah,
conserving himself, or editing
yeah,
his truth so that he could stay
yeah,
alive.
yeah,
So no, it's not a good thing. I don't think so. But it's that's part of what the artist goes through. That's
mm-hmm,
I I don't think I could just turn it off. I think it's this is my process. I think I came here to learn how to do that. I think I came here to learn
yeah,
slowly. I mean, 100 years ago, if you were an artist, you were not posting every day to hundreds of thousands of people. You did not have
yeah,
that mental thing going on. You were lucky if 100 people saw it. This is a new thing.
yeah,
This is a new challenge.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. This is a big challenge, and I think that's maybe even the biggest challenge of the ego is in that sense, as well the community and stuff to I think there's a part of the ego which believes very much that you need the community and the love and the validation from others in order to survive. And what if the person I truly am at my most honest way of expressing myself is gonna reject all of those people? Um, Again, something believes I'm gonna die. And I think this is a big fear that I face myself a lot. It's this love and validation from others, like it can be the small thing, even here in the podcast. Are you gonna like what I say? Are you gonna happy with the things that I do and the question I ask? And in the broader perspective in family, where I'm really tight, like there's a part of me which would love to get all of those tattoos, and it inspires me to tattoos and how it's made. Actually, there's an inspiration, but it would change the picture of myself and the family that I have of the good boy, for example. Of yeah, and I think that's where I ask myself: Am I now protecting my ego and therefore not going for something that really excites me and that I wish to dive in order to maintain that image? Or am I letting myself off the leash? Am I allowing myself?
So, and I think here a missing piece is it's okay to be cautious. And I know this from Outwitting the Devil. The devil says, I remove caution from people so that they can do things that destroy their lives and other people's lives. So, there's all this talk about follow like your immediate impulse, creatively or whatever, and yeah, and stay childlike and stay imaginative and not know what's going to happen and what you're going to make. Love all of that. But also, we are here. We are human. We are in a meat suit, whether we like it or not. And yeah, it's going to end and we'll go back to where we were and that'll all be fun. But I think it's also sort of like, this is a strong word, but like a little disgraceful to treat it flippantly, to say, I don't give a shit and I'm just going to be really reckless and risk taking. And there has to be a balance. It's not either or. It's not either I'm totally conserving myself and totally not conserving myself. We
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to continue, but also push the limits. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so caution is okay. Thinking about things, I think, is okay. Because once you do the
Mm-hmm.
thing, it's done. You can't undo
Yeah.
it. You can
Yeah.
maybe try something else.
Mm-hmm.
What do you
Mm-hmm.
think about caution then? Is that limiting?
Yeah. I mean, in I need to dig there a bit because in some way when I hear the word, something inside me contracts. I don't. I like that
Caution makes you
feeling.
contract. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Like I, for example, love that feeling that I just saw inside of you when we talked about death, and I'm just gonna go, and you seem off the leash. Like, I love that feeling of myself. Like, in that sense, maybe there's no caution, but there's also a great sense of freedom. Like, yeah, I do not care anymore because it is going to end, and everything is going to be lost that I have here, so I can freely play with it without needing to have that sense of caution. So, in a creative sense, I love to be free in that sense. But maybe a more rational part of myself, a more adult part, would agree with you and say, like, um, yeah, but you have something to lose, or this has a consequence, what you're gonna do in that energy. And yeah, I think that there's an inner relationship, like the child and the parent,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe to find the balance. Yeah, maybe that could be my work at that time, to see that the parent wants to protect the creativity rather than
Yes, there it is.
suppress
Because
it.
a child cannot take care of themselves. Children can only exist because there is an adult being responsible and conserving them. There has to be this masculinity and
Yeah.
femininity have to be together. Light and dark has to be together. Um, Creativity
Hmm.
and routine thrive together. Edges on your
Mm.
creativity make the creative process better. Makes it more
Mm.
possible to be creative if you put limits on it. So
Yeah.
I think there has to be both.
Yeah. I think that's where maybe many musicians and also other artists, maybe that's where they struggle with. I just watched yesterday the movie A Star Is Born again,
Mm-hmm.
and um, on one hand they're extremely creative. They know how to express themselves, meaning they have this kind of freedom to allow, and maybe that self-consciousness, self-image is disappearing, and they are in this creative flow. But then maybe they let this kind of too free in their life, where they go into drugs and alcohol and habits which keep them or deplete them.
Mm-hmm.
And there is
And they're unable
also
to
there's
continue.
also yeah, and there is, same as when they are in their creative expression in their lives, there's also no barrier. There's also nothing saying, like, hey, maybe it's good to go to bed early tonight, not drink, wake up and make this meeting with yourself tomorrow to play again. um, I think this balance is really hard to find, kind of. Like, you
Extremely.
want to be creative and free, but also discipline, and, yeah.
That's the
I
eternal struggle of the artist is where do I allow openness and where do I say here's the edge of the canvas and it's done. That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
That's the whole thing.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's nice.
And I have a theory
I,
that
de-
if I were even more, and I'm looking into doing this, if I were even more disciplined, if I like had, if I learned how to be like sort of like a Marine and wake up really
mm-hmm.
early and like do a cold shower right away and had this very intense structure, I actually believe that would make it so that I could be more creative. I think if I
Mm,
had a more disciplined, structured life where
mm-hmm.
things weren't all over the place, I could
Yeah,
actually do more. I could be more creative.
yeah,
I could create a
yeah,
stronger container for it.
yes. And that thought about to make it more like marine like, is this a thought that excites you to do that, or is it coming from a place of where you think, no, PJ, you need to do that? Um, like, how's the feeling of this thought? Like, from what kind of place is it coming from?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, there's so much now that I want to do, and it's getting harder to do if I am not, if my wake up times are all different, if my eating schedule is way different, if my exercise schedule is way, if everything is like every day is a, a lot could happen and we don't know exactly how it's. Are you going to make your bed today? Like, are you going to shower today? It's gross, I know, but like, if it's always that's so much mental energy wasted not on making art, not on putting things
Mm.
out in the world. So if
Mhm.
that was all tied up, that excites me. If that was all just figured out and done and made systematic, I would
Mhm.
be able to do more of what I actually want to do, and that excites me.
Mm.
The idea of
Okay.
taking a cold shower and waking up early, no. But
Yeah.
if that helps me do what I want to do, then it does excite me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's an interesting point of view too. I think that's where I struggle, to be honest, at some point, because I was the guy who was extremely disciplined about cold showers and food and stuff, and then suddenly I switched to the total opposite, and now my life is a bit, forth and back in it. It's like, no, you do nothing for the sake of making you more this or that, like saying you're not gonna eat well to look better or do the shower to be more creative. Everything that you do needs to be the excitement by itself,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Right.
um and then there's the other side where sometimes I get really rigid about it again, and yeah, it's an interesting topic. But I think what I like when you talk about it is that I see that this discipline is kind of emerging still from yourself. It's not something from the outside that is pushing it onto you. It's like coming from you, where you see, hey, I actually want to create the best work. I actually want to help myself creating the, like, keeping that garden alive. And
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. I like when it comes from that kind of place. I think that's an inspiration for me to use it in that sense as well.
And I've gone through periods in my life where I'm very disciplined and very not, and I've experimented with what if I just made things really easy for myself and took away choices. And so for a long time I wore the exact same outfit every day, like because I wanted to be like Steve Jobs or something. Um, and I had like 20 versions of the same shirt and like four of the same pants, whatever. And tried to do there's just a lot of ways that you could like remove and try to make things easier. I actually think the impulse to make things easier was really destructive for me. What I should do is I should try to make it so that I have to rise to the occasion. Because yeah, when my subconscious and my vision was all set to how do I make this more convenient for me, that also means like not working on stuff, like it's easier to not actually exert yourself. So now I want to experiment with how much can I take? And maybe I won't be able to do it
Mhm.
forever. But how
Mhm.
much, like there's so much I want to read. There's so much tennis I want to play. There's so much I want to do to my body. There's so much
Mhm.
artwork I want to make. Um, there's so many projects. I want to be able to
Mhm.
do them. And
Mhm.
I I need to be able to rise to the occasion. I need to figure out how to do that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think in that sense maybe it's yeah, I like that picture in my mind that you create the circumstances, you
mhm,
create not the circumstances, but yeah, you create kind of a frame for yourself in which you can play. You set it the canvas and the limit, and it's for your good. It's for, not that you need to perform better in a sense or that you need to become something more, but simply for you to be able to maybe play and to
mhm.
have um, a life experience in which you can really unfold and express yourself, and
And
yeah, in that sense, yeah.
I think some people mistake the structure and discipline as the point, and that the structure and discipline will like magically make them happy or something. When to me, it's like totally a means to an end. I don't give a shit about the structure and discipline. I give a shit about the container it creates.
Mm.
But some people get
Yeah.
really into like,
And I think that's again where the ego gets trapped. They kind of take an yeah, a status from it, like who's the most
Exactly.
disciplined, who's the most who can override their instincts for the longest period of time, and just
Override their
have that.
instincts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So um I want to come to the last quick question
Okay.
here, so we can keep it in our time frame. um how would you see the most for yourself or others? How could we expose and liberate ourselves the fastest from all of those ego aspects that suppress that game, that joy, that exploration, that full expression of ourselves? How would you see can people or yourself liberate themselves from it and live more creatively?
I don't know if you'll like my answer.
I don't need to like it.
I think everybody needs to take shrooms.
And smoke a lot of marijuana.
No, maybe. I don't think weed does that. It
No.
might for some people. Yeah, I don't think. I don't think it does that. It'd be
Why shrooms? To
because what that has done for me is it makes you see. Like I literally see there's not a grid. There's not a matrix 3D grid. I actually see that everything is made up of bubbles, of spheres. The whole structure is a smooth, continuous building of enclosed spheres. It's like insanely beautiful. Like literally the visual occurs and it's not random. You actually see how the hills and the flower and the rock and your hand are all perfect curves that are all continuous with each other. And then what you also see and sometimes get access to is that and you have to close your eyes for this, I think, your vision and what you're seeing out here and what your sensory input is giving you is actually tiny, and it's from the VR headset. Most of what is not in your VR headset. It's actually all external, or not external, internal, I'm not sure. But you are really a spiritual thing that put on some little tiny limiting goggles and you're playing a video game in it. It does that. And then I also only once experienced true timelessness. And I said, oh, time really, because we can conceptualize and talk about how, it's all right now. It's all right now. Past, you're just imagining. Future, you're just imagining. But still, I can feel or not feel, but I know we were talking 58 minutes ago. Like time, the passage of time still feels really real to me. I did experience true timelessness. Time was not passing. So I think if people did all of that, they would snap out of a lot of their obsession with staying here, you know?
nice. I think after this answer, you should get serious about becoming a drug dealer and actually selling shrooms now.
I think I'm going to become a drug addict, and I think I'm going to sell drugs on the internet. I think that's my next step.
Nice. I'm gonna be a very, very good client of yours then.
I'm such a Californian for saying this, but it's so true. And people have known about this. People have known about, like, that's like what shrooms like opened up consciousness for like ancient humans.
Yeah, yeah. Are you're still doing the marketing right now, like for your business, right? That's why you keep talking about it. You just want that it sells better.
Yes,
give me one more.
This is all very calculated. You're so right.
You heard it, guys.
Yeah.
It's timelessness. It's helping you to lose your ego. It's
Yeah.
Peche, your local drug dealer.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well,
what a perfect place to end.
Yeah.
On drugs.
Yeah.
So stupid.
Yeah.
So stupid.
Totally.
Talking about ego and like trying to like starting out all profound, like I think creativity is like this, and then at the end I'm like, you should just do drugs. Just go do drugs.
Yeah. We wasted an entire hour.
We could have figured
to
all
actually
of this
get
out.
to the point.
So stupid.
Yeah.
I'm so embarrassed. No, I'm not. I'm not embarrassed at all. I think it's funny. I think that's great.
I wonder what would happen if we would record an episode on shrooms, you and me.
Terrifying. Shrooms are not a laughing matter. They're very serious, and you are forced to confront a lot of things that you are avoiding. Yeah, it's very serious.
Yeah. So maybe not the best
Nope.
idea.
No, and if I knew I was being recorded and I had to think about this like persona called PJ, I would freak out. So scary.
I still would kind of like to see it, you know.
Yeah, I'll fly to Switzerland. I'll put drugs in my suitcase and I'll fly internationally, and then we can try it. We can go up into the mountains.
Perfect. And if they catch you, we will record it in prison.
Yeah, I'll just say, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
I love it. All right. Well, that was a great one. And yeah, kids, go and do drugs now.
No!
And,
I am not liable.
No, just kidding.
All of this is satire. I'm joking. I've never done drugs. This is a joke.
Sure. All right.
See you next week, guys.
Don't do drugs then, and see you next week. Thank you. The Human Playbook.